This is episode 36 of the Author Alchemist podcast. I'm Kimber York, and today we're going to talk about tools to help you get writing done. So thanks for joining me, and let's get to it. I'm Kimber, the host of the Author Alchemist podcast. I'm bringing my years of experience as both a fan fiction writer and a professionally published author to the problem we all love to hate, the act of writing. You can't improve on something that doesn't exist, which means the most important thing you can do is simply write. Anything. Just write something. I'm here to help you do that. It's Kimbu. How are you doing? I almost said good morning because it's morning to me, but it may not be morning for you. So, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm getting this done in the morning where I am here in Florida because I actually have a lot of writing to do. This past week's been a little rough for me. I don't mind telling you. Some of you may already know. I know I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I do actually suffer from generalized anxiety disorder, which means that sometimes out of the blue, for no reason, my brain will just turn on that primal flight or fight response, and I end up freezing solid, unable to do anything. And it usually comes in waves, and I know this now. As I was telling a friend, I've had enough therapy that I know that you can't outsmart it or outthink it or outrun it. It's something I simply have to allow myself to experience and move through it. Fighting it makes things worse. So this past week, I have not gotten as much done as I wanted to get done in regards to writing the books that I'm working on currently because of the anxiety. Not a lot of fun, but I feel myself pulling out of it, and today I know I'm going to actually get a lot of writing done. I'm experimenting with dictation, which I might actually do a whole podcast on that down the road. So it's been a very interesting experience. I think definitely going to be using dictation more going forward. And that kind of leads into the topic that I talk about today, which is tools to help you write. I want to clarify that I don't mean tools to help you be a better writer. A lot of times if you do a Google search or any kind of search online for writing tools, you're going to get advertisements or you're going to get links for things that will help you be a better writer because they're actually editing tools. Things like Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid are specifically designed to help you improve your writing. And that's great. If those tools help you, that's fantastic. But as I often talk about on this podcast, it's hard to edit anything when you haven't written it yet. That's kind of the sticking point, isn't it? You'll also get a lot of ads for software or services that will help you organize your writing, such as Scrivener or Plotter or World Anvil. There's a lot of these things out there these days. Campfire is one I've heard about more recently. Those are also great programs. If you know me, you know I'm a big fan of Scrivener. I use that for all of my writing. I've heard other people, including professional authors, who use something like World Anvil for their world building as well as their writing. There's a lot of options out there, right? But again, that's all great on the back end, helping you figure out the story beats or the outline you're going to use or work on your world building, building character sheets. Something like Scrivener is really good for organizing scenes and going back and moving things around and doing research. It's fabulous. But again, I'm talking about actually getting the writing done. Y'all, that is the hardest part. All that other stuff, editing tools, organizational tools, world building tools, those are bells and whistles. Are they actually going to get you to sit down and write? Maybe. Maybe not. If actually sitting down and getting something written is a problem for you, as it is for most of us, I know very few writers who can just sit down and then start bleeding all over the page immediately. There are those out there. I don't want to say that that's not a possibility, and if you haven't tried it, go for it. Just sit down any time of the day or night and set a goal for yourself and hit it. For the rest of us, it can be a little bit of a mental hurdle, shall we say. Certainly, if you're somebody like me who deals with anxiety, then yes, it can become a problem. But all is not lost, because there are actually tools and services, and I'm going to go over them here in a little bit, that will actually help you do the writing. A lot of you are probably familiar with the idea of sprints, where you set a timer or you set a goal, a word count goal, and you just sit down and you write until you hit that. A lot of people use the Pomodoro method for writing sprints, which is very useful if you do have goals that you're trying to hit, like word counts, or you have a deadline that's coming up. Sitting down with a Pomodoro timer, whether digital or actual little tomato sitting on your desk, can be very useful for that. But again, it's kind of resting on the fact that you're going to set that timer, that you're going to sit there and pull that up and click the button and start writing. Sometimes that can be a little hard to do. So what I look for is community. What I'm going to suggest here, some have community features, some don't. But I think a lot of it is built around the idea of challenging you, either by gamifying it or putting you in a situation where others can see what you're doing, whether you're competing against others or whether it's more of a community building type of feeling where everybody's in this together, where we're working for it. Whatever your personal preference might be, if just getting words into the document is what your hurdle is, I suggest checking out the show notes, because I'm going to have links to the services that I talk about here. But definitely think about trying some of these out. They might not fit you perfectly, but they're going to be something there for you, I think, if you just keep going until you find the one that really hits that button in your brain that says, yeah, now it's time to write. The basics, of course, are sprints and accountability buddies, I guess you might say. Accountability buddies, I think is the word. Accountability buddies. What I'm going to talk about here features both of those at differing levels. So the first one I want to talk about is a famous one. It seems to be going through a little bit of upgrade, but I'm not sure how that's processing right now. It's called Write or Die, where essentially you set a goal for yourself and you type the words into the panel on the website. And if you don't hit the word count or you don't hit your goals within the time frame that you set, all your words disappear. And honestly, that's too terrifying for me. I have never done that. I cannot do that. But some people swear by it. It really drives them hard to beat the clock, get that word count in so that they can cut and paste it into whatever document they're writing. Most others are a little bit less strict than that. We've got put the words down, for the words, write to smite. Now those are gamified versions of sprinting. So you write in order to gain points or to defeat monsters. Some people really love that. They just really get into that gamify mindset. There's whole communities, especially for the sites For the Words and Write to Smite. People talking about what they've done and how much they've accomplished and what their scores are. Just like any other game environment, only the game is writing. Really popular one. Again, not for me, interestingly. I actually go for things that are more community-based than gamified. And again, that's kind of a sliding scale type of things, whether something's fully gamified or just community-based or a little bit of both. What I really love are sprint bots on Discord servers. And if you're not familiar with Discord, it's a platform where you have rooms, and they're called servers, but they're more like houses, and there are rooms inside the houses. If you're old like me and was ever on AOL, then it's kind of familiar actually. And there's chat rooms in these rooms. So you have a channel, they call them a channel, but it's a chat room. And in that channel might be the Sprint channel. And there is a little piece of software, there's a little bit of code, it's called a Sprint bot. And you give it a command and it automatically runs for how many minutes you told it to. So you'll tell it to run for 25 minutes. You join the sprint by giving another command to the channel, and whoever is in the channel with you also joins. And then boom, the sprint is running. Everybody's writing at the same time. The sprint ends. The bot pings, tells you it's over. Everybody enters how many words that they wrote during that sprint. It's less a contest, at least in the channels and the Discord servers I've been in. It's more just sharing your success or bewailing and bemoaning your lack of success. And it is fantastic because it really allows me to feel like I'm not alone out there in the world. There are other people who are sprinting along with me, and that's important for me. Along those lines, if you're not interested in something like Discord, but you can dial up some friends on a Zoom call, there are co-writing sessions you can have. There are actually websites out there that host co-writing events. My friend and other podcast co-host, Gina Hogan-Edwards, hosts Women Writing for Change Facebook co-writing sessions multiple times a week. The women who belong to that group show up for these co-writing sessions at different times of the day. When they show up for those sessions, they are given a prompt by Gina or simply state what they will be working on, and then the timer starts running and everybody writes for an hour. Great lively community, and one that anybody can pretty much start. If you have access to Zoom or some other kind of online meeting software account, you can just start your own co-writing sessions. Get a couple of friends, decide every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. we dial in together and we all write for an hour together. There are some people who do that daily, even. Mal Cooper on YouTube has started broadcasting her writing sprints. It's less a community than you're kind of writing along with her if you want to do that, but it's really neat. Whenever she takes breaks between writing sprints, she talks to people who are in the chat room. These are YouTube live events. It gets really active. It seems like a really great support group. I've only been able to hit those events a couple of times because her hours are a little bit inconvenient for me personally, but she gets people showing up there to write with her. So that's another great example of what you can do to put yourself into the mindset of getting writing done. One I found out recently is imissmycafe.com, and from what I can tell, this was actually started back in 2020 as a reaction to the pandemic lockdown that was going around for a lot of us. It's an interactive ambient setting website where there's cafe music. You can set some background noise like people talking or glasses clinking like you would hear at a cafe. But there's also a little feature. It's up on the upper right-hand corner. If you go to the site, and again, I'll have links to all these in the show notes, you might not see it, but it says timer. It's just a little word timer right up there in the corner. It's a Pomodoro timer. So you can actually set your own cafe ambiance with a Pomodoro timer to get some work done. I'm actually looking forward to trying that one out because I think that would be a lot of fun. I really encourage you to go and check out all of these options. I don't think you're going to know what really hits for you until you try each and every one of them. Some people I've known signed up for the words as a lark and just became huge fans. Like, they didn't really think that they would get involved or attached to gamifying their writing sessions, but they did. Some of them have really high scores. I tried it. It actually made me more nervous because I was worried about my scores than I was about writing, which is why I like the sprint bots on Discord or co-writing sessions where I'm, on Zoom or I'm with somebody even just over the phone. Occasionally I've done that as well. Not as successful for me, but it does work sometimes. Or even just, in places where it's allowed, where places are open. Like I know some places are still dealing with COVID and the pandemic. I live in Florida. We're pretending like it never happened. So you can go anywhere and not wear a mask if you don't want to. I think that's nuts, but if you want to, you can actually go meet up with some people live and in person and start doing a live co-writing event if that's your thing. Not quite my thing. I do a co-working session every week with Gina. We go down to what's called Domi Station here in Tallahassee. Highly recommend it. It gets me out of the house, but it's not a great creative writing space for me because it is a co-working space. It's great for me getting a lot of other business work done, but not for co-writing. So I'm not sure like a co-working thing, unless you are the type of person who thrives on a lot of ambient energy around you, people talking on the phone and people getting work done and walking all around. A little bit too high energy for me as compared to like a cafe, which can be just as busy, but somehow just has a different energy to it. Which is why I want to try out imissmycafe.com. I'm super excited to try that one out. I just found out about it. I was doing some research on a writer's forum that I belong to. I was looking to see what other things people may have recommended that I hadn't seen before, and that was one of them. So really excited to try that one out. That said, I do have to get some writing done today. So thank you for joining me on this podcast. I invite you to visit my website, www.authoralchemist.com. I've got my freebie, Write to Market or Not, which is for anybody who has written fan fiction but is trying to break into original fiction markets and doesn't know if the work that they have is marketable or not. Hits pretty close to home for me because I'm rebranding my KC York writing brand as a MMF, which stands for male, male, female, polyamorous romance writing brand. I've always kind of been that on the down low with that brand, especially with Wolves of Harmony Heights. If you read that book, which is male, male, female, polyamorous romance paranormal story. But I never really thought about focusing on it as my brand, but it seems to me I'm writing a lot of books like that. Queen's Herein, the dragon focused book that I'm writing now, is in fact a male, male, female polyamorous story. Being able to write to market is a hot issue for me. I will definitely be doing a podcast about that later, but in the meantime, if you're curious about whether you can write to market or not, then check out the freebie. It's you go to my homepage, there's a little button there, it says check out the freebie, and you can sign up for it and get it really fast. So please do that. Still got my courses out from Fanfiction and Author Website Toolkit available as well. And I've got some other things in the fire I'm excited to talk about, but not gonna spend all your time on that right now. Thanks for joining me. I hope this might give you some ideas and inspiration on how to get some writing done, which, by the way, is what we all need to go do right now. Talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to me ramble on about writing here on the Author Alchemist podcast. I'm Kimber York, and I hope this episode has helped clear away the cobwebs from your inspiration. Now, time to get some writing done.